So hello, my name is Zuzana Bohacheva. I'm a project officer at ACR Plus. It's short for Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Resource Management. I will be moderating today's webinar. There's also my colleague Gael, who you can see now in the chat, so you can communicate with us mainly through the chat if you have any questions, remarks. We will also have some space for questions and answers, and we would like to interact with you as well. So in case there's anything, you can talk with us through the chat. We will also have some polls for you, and maybe if it's really needed, we might also enable the microphone and video feature. And since I mentioned ACR Plus, I will also say just a few words about our organization. So we're an international network based in Brussels. We've been supporting the transition to circular economy in the cities and regions for over 30 years now. We have around 90 members from different European and Mediterranean countries, having around 23 different countries. And we work across different thematic areas. We have 5 of them. There's built environment area, there's sustainable food systems, policy and governance, waste and material flows, and circular lifestyles, which is kind of the topic for today. So you can see our webinar is called Breaking Barriers, Behavioral Change Strategies for Circular Economy Implementation. So this webinar is organized within several different series, and it's connected to different contexts and events. So as you may have seen, it's also part of the EU Green Week 2025 with this year's theme Circular Solutions for a Competitive EU. But this webinar is also part of 2 series. The first one is the ACR Plus Circular Lifestyle web series. So it's a series of in total 4 webinars. This is the 3rd one. Next week on Monday, 23rd of June, we have one more episode on social innovation for acceptance of circular systemic solutions. So in case you're really interested in behavioral change, you can definitely also join the webinar next Monday. In this series, we just try to look at how different processes, operations can be rethought, reshaped, redefined to allow some key circular strategies to be embedded in the way we buy, consume, enjoy goods and services. And we try to look at this topic from different angles. But at the same time, this webinar is part of innovative sustainable economy mission trainings. So we, as ACR Plus, also within this ISE Innovative Sustainable Economy mission, we organize trainings, both internal and now this one is for the broad public. So through these trainings, we try to also enable external stakeholders to capitalize on the ISE mission outputs, to share what we've learned within our own projects and training we already had. So this specific webinar is also building up on a session that we had last April with 14 different thematic projects, and during which we looked at behavioral change already. So I'm gonna go back to it in just a minute. Well, if we can go to the next slide now. Or can I take the control somehow? I'm not sure now if I can switch.
You can just, yes, you can just move to the next slide.
Right? Because I don't, I'm sorry, but I don't see the option. Okay. So just for the agenda of today's webinar, we are starting with the introduction, obviously. Then we'll have 2 external experts, Rosa Struba and Hernan Ruiz, sharing with us some experiences from their own projects and some applications of nudging and storytelling, and how can that help shape some circular economy practices. And then we'll have 3 very interesting case studies from the projects from the ISE mission. Focus on slightly different things, but all related to some sort of behavioral change. And at the end, of course, we'll have some time for your questions. So hopefully we'll get to answer them. And we can go to the next slide. I don't know if there's an option. I'm just not seeing it. If we can now launch the poll, if they do work, we would like to just ask who's in the room with us today, because as I said, there's been a lot of registrations. So just to have an idea what type of organizations join us today. So you should see it on your screen right now. Just choose which type of organization you represent.
We don't
Hopefully
see it yet,
there's
Susanna.
at least one category. Sorry?
We don't see it yet. It's still
You
the
don't
question.
see it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, because I see it, so
Otherwise, maybe go to the chat. You
maybe,
might see
yeah,
it
if
there.
you don't see it on your screen,
You can go
you
to
can
the
go
chat.
to the chat. Because if it hasn't popped out automatically, you should be able to open it through the chat. And once you vote, you should also be able to see the results. We can just give a few more seconds for those who haven't voted yet to vote. Okay, so it seems that for now, the strongest group is academic / research institutes. But then we also have quite a few local regional authorities. But they're different. Yeah, almost all the categories are represented at least by someone. Okay, maybe we can move on to the next slide now, because the time is running very fast, and we have a lot of interesting presentations, so I don't want to. If you want to also share with us what's the expectations for today's webinar. Just 1-2 words, so that at the end we can see if we've managed to fulfill your expectations, or what specific thing would you like to learn, what specific term would you maybe like to know more about after this training. Okay, learning case studies. That's nice. Okay. Circularity, inspiration. Yeah, I think the whole idea of this webinar is definitely to inspire and share some good practices. So I hope we'll be able to fulfill these expectations. Good practices, nudging, yes, ideas for the market, good. Okay, I think we have some idea, and we can move to the next slide. Because before I finally give the word to all the different experts we have today, I will still talk a bit more myself. So as I said, my name is Zuzana Bohacheva from ACR Plus, and we are also part of the Innovative Sustainable Economy mission. And as I mentioned, this April, we had an internal training within our community of practice, which was also focused on behavior change. And on the next slide, we just have a very brief summary of what we've learned during the training. So what we did was that we took our 14 thematic projects that within this mission, we've divided them in 4 broad categories. So some of them are more related to marine resources, others to agri-food systems. Another group of projects deals with industrial transition, and the last group is about resource valorization. And all these projects, they filled in behavior cards that were based on Combi models. So you can see the nice colorful diagram over there. So it's a model that looks at capability, opportunity, and motivation in the context of what drives the behavior change. I'm not going to go in the details. I'm not the behavior expert here, but it's definitely an interesting framework to start your analysis from. In case you're interested, you have also the link to the source there. But what we learned through these cards was that indeed, even though the projects focus on different things, they deal with some similar issues. They also sometimes target more stakeholder groups. Some projects are more focused on the public authorities and trying to support the circular behavior within there. So to move from cost-based decisions to more strategic procurement, from fragmented approaches to more evidence-based policies. Other projects deal more with the business stakeholders, producers, trying to help them to move from linear production to cultural practices, from waste generation to resource optimization. But also we have projects that are more focused on the citizens and consumers and deal with the limited awareness that's there, sometimes improper disposal of waste, and to move consumers towards more informed choices and sustainable habits. And in the next slide, we just summarize some of the recurring topics and issues that we saw coming up across all the different projects. So all the projects mentioned that there's really a need for collaboration and knowledge sharing between the different stakeholders when you're trying to change the behavior, and that there's very often similar type of barriers to adoption to more sustainable circular behaviors. So very often it's related to lack of knowledge and skills, but it could also be related to financial constraints, lack of supportive infrastructure or policies, or just in general resistance to change and uncertainty about benefits, which I think is something that really is a lot related to the behavior change and how do we tackle this. And at the same time, the project admitted that they already have and see some existing enablers that they can leverage to move forward with this circular change, and that includes existing networks, research expertise, growing consumer demand, and supportive policy frameworks. So this is kind of where we started from. But I would also now like to give the floor finally to the other experts here. And we will start with Alessandra Sensi, who will give us a bit more of the context of the regional cooperation framework. And she's here representing the Union for Mediterranean. So I give you the floor now, Alessandra.
Many thanks, Susanne, and many thanks to everybody for the invitation today that we have really welcome, as it's in line with what the Euro-Mediterranean region, which indeed the UFM represents with its 43 Euro-Mediterranean countries, has been pursuing over the years. I'd like also to make an important mention to the IC mission. Indeed, as you know, this is part of a long-term collaboration that we have with the Interreg Euromed. The missions have been, the governance actually, axis and derivative missions have been labeled by the Union for the Mediterranean, indeed to make sure that all the results and all the activities be at the benefit of the wider Mediterranean region, so that all can be part and all can benefit of this transition and this move towards green circular economy. Of course, the mission put the accent indeed on innovative and sustainable, and this corresponds to Axis 3 of the Greener Med agenda that the 43 Euro-Mediterranean countries and stakeholders have shaped together during a consultation of around 2 years, and then are implementing along the lines of the ministerial declaration that were agreed in 2015 and 2021. Precisely in 2014, we started to introduce the concept of sustainable consumption and production. And of course, this is an aspect that your webinar today is indeed emphasizing, and very importantly, the part on consumption. A lot of attention has been put over the past years, as you said also, Susanne, over the production part. Indeed, trying to build a critical mass that could make the market roll this green transition on its own. But indeed, there is also the other very important component represented by the consumers as agent of change. It has been tackled, but so far not enough explored. I'd like to emphasize that within the ministerial declaration that I mentioned, we had one that was annexing the strategy for education and sustainable development. And out of that, we have decided to go for a publication, which of course by now, with all your activities and up-to-date analysis, might be a bit outdated. But I will actually put the link to this publication, which is dated 2019. So we're talking about the pre-COVID in a very different, even geopolitical context, which was aiming, and this is still valid, I would say, to try to find indeed the basic indications that could help the consumer to have an impact. And of course, an impact not just as one, as single consumer, but as part of a society that is trying to push in this direction. So what we had thought, and again, it's still something that I wanted to reply to your questions when you were placing what are your expectations. I think what is still valid and important is to help to define the 2, 3, 4, 5 key actions that everybody can, as consumer, as agent of change, apply on a daily basis and make sure that together with the other, these generate impacts over time. Through this, let's say, publication that, as I said, I will share, considering, you know, that it's somehow updated. There were some indication also by sectors, food, housing, mobility, consumer goods and leisures, as well as a collection of apps that, you know, again, could be used to induce these changes. And I'd like also to connect this important webinar to an event that we are organizing next week in Brussels. So this is placed within the European Green Week. We are actually organizing the Mediterranean Green Week, and your mission will be there, will be very nicely also represented by the Beta Center, by Maria Caldera, as well as the Joint Secretariat itself. And there we have joined forces with our colleagues. I'm the head of sector for environment, green and blue economy at the Union for the Mediterranean, but we are pooling, let's say, and joining forces on environment, climate change and energy in order, let's say, to make sure that the Green Mediterranean Week can absorb the outcomes of the European Green Week, but also, as I said, expanded to the wider region. A very important point to conclude. So again, what I said is that the context is changing, and unfortunately is changing very rapidly in the Mediterranean. This has to be taken into account in strategizing and making, of course, indications and advice for future action, something, let's say, feasible from one side to be implemented independently from the context, but also on the other side to be implemented in a way that can sort of positively influence the context itself. So with this, I would like to conclude, and if you allow me, I will just refer to the sentence that our publication was actually using as element of inspiration, as it was very much focused on education, and it was a sentence from Nelson Mandela saying that education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. So thank you very much for the possibility of being with you today, and looking forward to working on this all together as we did up to now. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Alessandra, also for the very inspirational sentence to conclude. Also, feel free to share any links to the events or publications that you mentioned in the chat. And now I'll give the floor to Maria Caldera. who from Beta Technological Center, who will tell us more about the Innovative Sustainable Economy mission. So Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Susanna and Alessandra, also for the introductions and presentation. I am Maria Calero, a project coordinator at the Governance for Sustainability team at Beta Technological Center from the University of Vic, Central University Catalonia in Spain. And yeah, I think I have control of the slides. Perfect. And 2 weeks ago, we participated at the EU Green Week in Brussels. And this year, as you all know and are interested, was about unpacking the 3 Cs, the clean, competitive, and circular. And with the new European Commission mandates and the competitiveness compass strategic framework, EU aims to improve the path to this to become climate neutral. And it keeps being an ambitious political mandate, we all know that, but it's empowering the innovation and circular economy momentum. And Interreg Euromed ISE mission is about this, contributing to a smarter and greener Mediterranean and consolidating a competitive innovation ecosystem and supporting circular economy solutions, always within the 3 sustainability pillars. And from the current EU Green Week, I wanted to share with you some inspiring quotes, similar to what Alessandra finished the sentence with from Nelson Mandela. I found Jean Bell, the head planet director of DG Research and Innovation, very inspiring. And I personally think his words could set the scene of today's webinar to ensure we all keep breaking barriers for circular economy implementation. Among others, he said that we are scaling systemic place-based innovation and localized big ideas. So we are from industrial symbiosis to biofertilizers. We managed to do that. The question is not just the EU Green Week, but if we can fund and frame a new EU Green Era. He said also people will define the limits of sustainability transition. And the future is Darwinian, not just competition, that we will heard a lot this word, but also cooperation. And you can also follow all the interventions online. Maybe you have already checked them. But yeah, I wanted to wrap up what they said in here. I'm just trying to change the slide. Okay. In this context, there are so many reasons why we need to keep the conversation on circularity to local and regional levels, engaging the quadruple helix across the globe, and especially for the Interreg Euromed mission. This is exactly what we are doing, especially working on 4 focus areas, as Susanna has said, tackling marine resources, agri-food systems, industrial transition, and resource valorization. Each of these areas rely on a strong transnational multi-level and also multi-actor partnership, implementing and testing new ideas, products, methods to meet the current needs without compromising future generations, and aiming to be like fully circular or through closed systems. I wanted to give some examples, but we ran out of time, and you will hear more about some projects later on. And I just wanted to finish to say that we want to keep amplifying these innovative and circular solutions. And through the longer governance projects, we are mapping resources, strengthening relationships, developing skills, and integrating evidence-based knowledge at the policy level. And in this activities framework, we want to highlight the Innovative Sustainable Economy Hub as a long-lasting, open, and inclusive space that brings together stakeholders from across the Mediterranean, all committed to the same future, a greener and more resilient future. And I encourage you to become a member, to connect, learn, share, and collaborate. And I will share the information now in the chat. Thank you so much already for those who are members and are extremely engaged. And thank you so much for your attention, and looking forward to further learn from behavioral changes strategies. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Maria. So now that we've kind of set the context, learned about the initiatives that we're working on, and the reasoning behind why we need to go forward with the circular and sustainable change, we'll move to some specific examples. We'll move to our experts, and we'll start with Rosa Strube, Head of Sustainable Lifestyles Team at CSCP. So we'll now try to switch the screen sharing.
Yes,
is it still
did.
the,
Yes,
we already, oh wait, you're so efficient at the technology. I'm here, the boomer with, Well, amazing. So then, Rosa, I give you the floor because, yeah, as Maria said, we're kind of tight on time, so go ahead.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Susanna, and thank you very much for the chance to speak here today. I think we have a lot of chances to dive into that topic of behavior change, which is so important and so complex also. So as I have the first chance to dive a bit into content, I will just shed light on one element of this. Of course, there are many, many perspectives we can take, and I would like to focus on the topic of storytelling and how we can use this to encourage behavior change and reach people. So the next few minutes will be on this, and it is also connected to a project that we're currently working on with my organization, the CSCP, which is called CARE. So I would like to ask you all to just take a second. Now I'm too fast here. To take a second and reflect on how many pieces of clothing you have given away or thrown out this year. And then to think about how many of these were still wearable. So you don't have to answer out loudly, or you can in the chat if you want, but most probably the truth is that we don't really know, we don't really recall, because we donate, we store, we throw away clothes all the time, and we very rarely pause and ask ourselves, why actually isn't that maybe not necessary? Is that probably a bit too much? And this is exactly where we start with the CARE project, and this is where I would like to take you through now. So before I do this, I will give you just a little bit of background information on the project so that you also see in which context we did this and also what we aim to do with this. So in very brief, the CARE is a Horizon Europe project which started last year and will go until 2027. And it's all about circular consumption activities. Oh, and I'm sorry, this is moving a little bit on itself. Okay. So the objectives with the project are to transform a total of 100 households in 5 European countries into circular model households. Yeah, really to bring them up to speed, to test different things with them. And this regarding 2 material flows, one being food and one being clothing. We have 5 regions within this CARE project, both in urban and rural areas, and all of them are part of the CCRI initiative. We are conducting with these households what we call pilots, and that contains, for example, customized, inclusive and cost-free circular advisory services, and also interventions that these households take part in. And of course, this also needs to be measured. So this is done by measuring the improvement in material efficiency, but also in living conditions and sustainable well-being. So really taking a holistic view on that. And we use for this life cycle assessment and also the product environmental footprint, among others, just as a bit of background. Good. So I try to see that this is not changing 2 slides at a time. All right, so this is a quick overview on our pilot locations. It's relatively Northern Europe focused, mainly also because the CCRI members are mainly based in the northern part of Europe. So we have 3 pilot areas, one of them being Tampere region in Finland, Asker in Norway, and Göteborg in Sweden. And we have 3 fellow areas, which is Lääne-Harju in Estonia and Berlin in Germany. Oh, once more, sorry for a bit of a slow change. Okay, so, okay, sorry, this is not going as smoothly as it should. The goal of this is, of course, overall, we want to reduce food and clothing waste, and this is really purely done with behavioral interventions and the aim to change behaviors. So, yeah, this means for us, of course, to transform households into these circular households, into circular role models. I think very interesting to see how those can also then later on inspire others. We have an aim to reduce the material inefficiencies by 30 to 50% with this. We aim to deliver replicable and scalable advisory services. So of course that this can be taken far beyond the 100 households that are involved and to other communities as well. There's, as for many of the projects, of course, a policy component with this to also foster systemic change. And last but not least, this should be beneficial for the communities and the households that participate. So to give you a bit of an idea on how this will be done in the end, We do engage with these 100 households. I said on the topic of food waste and clothing, I'll just focus on the clothing topic a bit later on. Yeah, we have analyzed different behavioral barriers that would need to be addressed with this, and then the activities that are still upcoming, but that will happen with these pilots in all the 5 countries, comprise a number of different activities. So some of them are really hard facts, let's say, or equipment. For example, offering repairing kits to households to repair their clothes. Of course, that's not only a thing about equipment, but also often about knowledge. So also guidance materials and videos on how to do this will be shared with them. We are very aware that behavior change is very relying also on the social context that you're in, and probably also on communities that you feel part of. So there will be a number of social events, for example, swapping or repairing events, and there's also a social community platform on the internet where households can connect also between the different countries. Other than that, we will have customized advice services, which are also based on specific data which each of the households provided. So this can be quite tailored. And last but not least, there will also be challenges for changing behaviors on these 2 topics, for example, on not shopping for a month, or also reducing the number of washing cycles. Okay, so to give now you have a bit of a background on this, but now I want to focus on this main part of the presentation, which is the storytelling approach. Because of course, at the beginning of each such project, we ask ourselves, how can we reach people? How can we motivate them? How can they actually become part of such an activity? And yeah, many of you will know, you work in the field. EU citizens buy an average of 50 kilograms of clothing and textile per year. This goes hand in hand with a lot of material consumption, water and land use, CO2 emissions. But yeah, we know these facts, and we also know that facts alone don't really lead to behavior change. We somehow have to move from simple information to emotion and really get people where they also feel. And this is where the storytelling comes in, and this is why we agreed to use this as a concept. I found it very interesting. I found that stories stick to your brain about 22 times more than other forms of information. At least this is what the Stanford professor says on this. I think that's a very high number. Even if it doesn't go as high, I think that's actually something we can all recall. Stories that someone told you really stick to you in a different way, and it's much easier to recall them, probably also to pass them on to someone else. So there certainly is a big benefit in taking advantage of this also for our work. So how did we go along this for the project? So the very first step for us was actually to listen. You see here a screenshot of a mirror board, which we created when we very initially got together as a consortium and discussed with all the partners on how such story around circular textiles could look like. So on the one hand, we ask all the partners there, what is our mission? What could also be a joint mission, of course, that we want to drive forward? What do we want to tell? But also we already started by asking what are the realities in each of the countries and what are the needs of the audiences. So in this first step, we really collected a lot of ideas already, a lot of pieces of stories that could be used later on, but wanted to go a level further and really make sure also that we could match the realities of the local households. So as a second step, we conducted human-centered design workshops in all of these 5 countries together with households or with members of households. And we showed them what we already had done in the first workshop, showed them some of the stories, some of the content. And we asked them very specifically what motivates them and what they felt inspired about, and also what not. We also asked them which of the routines and which of everyday behaviors were particularly hard for them to change. So based on that, we got some very nice insights to really see what should be part of the storytelling in the end, which topics it should cover, but also, of course, what would be beneficial for them to feel part of such outcome in the end. So the first result that we came up with then afterwards were what you see here, or a selection at least. These are the so-called circular heroes. They guide us or support us in all project activities. And they really represent real people. So they are not perfect, they are not really shiny, they all have their own challenges. And the idea is really that every person can easily connect to at least one of these characters and probably find some of the personality traits or some of the behaviors they also do at home with these characters. And then, of course, as the big step and as the result that I also want to share with you, we created the storylines, and we created some storytelling videos here. And this one here is on textiles. We have a second one on food waste, but I would like to share this with you so that you get an idea. It's very short also. So let's see if this technology also works. No, not sure. Does it already show anything for you?
I just see the screen.
Yeah, I
of the
think it's not
presentation.
working. Just wait a minute. I will try to stop
Should
sharing.
I? Perfect, thank you.
Yes, I will take back just a few seconds.
In 2025, but I don't think I will ever master all these online meetings, because there's always some button or something that just doesn't work as we would like it to be.
In any case, not to take too much of the time, I think this will be a final
No,
thing.
it's fine. It's fine. I will. It's just here to find it.
Okay, I see something.
Yes, I think.
Good.
Yes, yeah. Just include sound. Yes, here we are.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Has a wardrobe full of favorites, but even beloved clothes wear out. Many of us have enough, so how do we get the most out of the clothes we have? Outgrown clothes, impulse buys we regret, or damaged favorites? Thankfully, there's a solution for all of them. Fun actions like upcycling, swapping, selling, or mending can give your clothes a second life and reduce waste. And of course, it all starts with giving it a try. Your community is full of support. Reach out to family, friends, and local experts. Together with care, we transform our homes for the better. Small changes in your daily life add up, helping you save time and money, waste less, and keep your favorite items longer, while making a positive impact on our planet. Be part of the change. Together we can shape a sustainable future with care.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I hope you had fun with the video and you could feel a little bit of this atmosphere we wanted to create, that the way of living that feels possible, positive, and also rooted in everyday life. So yeah, thank you with this very much for the attention. We use this to recruit households for the activities so far, but it will of course also further on be used for engaging with audience basically. So this is the part. Thank you very much, and then on to the next speaker so that we have sufficient time.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rosa. Since we're kind of running behind time, I will give the floor directly to Adnan. So I hope the sharing screen works there as well. And Adnan Ruiz, he's from CERC, École de Pont Business School, and also representing the Shared Green Deal project. So the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Susanna, and thank you very much for the invitation to the webinar. Can you see my screen? I hope yes. Okay, perfect. So as Susanna mentioned, my name is Hernán Ruiz Ocampo. I work at the École de Pont Business School as a project manager, and I will share the experience of the Shared Green Deal project and the circular economy experiment that was related to foster business innovation for local businesses. So the presentation will be structured around 5 main points. So I would like to give you an introduction of what is the Shared Green Deal project. Then I will share you some of the main activities that we performed during the experiment. Then Also because I think that we are using different tools, right, in order, to foster the behavioral change. So in our case, we were using design thinking for circular economy. Then we are going to go, for some learning points and recommendation, and at the end, maybe some Q&A if you have any doubt that I could clarify. So first, to start, the Sharing Deal is a project bringing together 22 leading organizations from across Europe to stimulate shared actions that is needed to deliver just and sustainable change under the EU Green Deal. So the Sharing Deal project runs across 6 priorities of the European Green Deal. So we have clean energy, circular economy, efficient renovations, sustainable mobility, sustainable food, and preserving biodiversity, all of which contributes to the climate action and zero pollution ambition of the Green Deal. So also at the core of the project is an emphasis on utilizing diverse cutting-edge social science and humanities research to better support and understand green transition. So to this end, rather to focus on the micro level that you have here or the macro level that it's here, what the Sharing Deal wanted to focus is in the middle range, which is what we call the meso level. And here you can see that, the activities of the 6 priorities that I mentioned before were, addressing in this meso level. So for example, in the case of circular economy, as I mentioned before, we were focusing on business innovation. So I will go to the next slide now. And just to give you a small introduction about what is the circular economy experiment. So we base our approach on the value chains, in the 8 value chains of the circular economy action plan. And we use as a as a tool, the establishment of local accelerator hubs to support local businesses and to test the different value propositions that can significantly reduce the cost and time in, providing new circular products and services at a local level. So in this case, we had different local partners that were selected through an open call, and they were focusing in 3. Well, they were able to choose among these 8 value chains, and they choose textiles, construction and buildings, and food, water, and nutrients. So which are these local partners that we selected? So the local partners were from across Europe. So one of them, it's located in France. So the name is Val-de-Marne, and they were focusing on textiles, as I mentioned before. Then we have a partner from Slovenia, from Ljubljana, so the technological park of Ljubljana, that we were also focusing on textiles. Then we have also the Cyprus Organization for Standardization, and in this case, they were focusing more in construction and buildings. And finally, we had Portugal, so the municipality of Santo Tirso, that they were focusing in textile, plastics, food, water, and nutrients. So what were the main activities of our experiment? So in this case, we did the design in 3 different phases in order, to create this behavioral change. So we had creation of interactive spaces, since our objective was to create this local accelerator hubs ecosystem. Then we have the phase of negotiation and co-creation, which were basically the development of a cycle of circular economy workshops using design thinking. And at the end, the objective in the phase 3 was, to have to embed circular economy in businesses. And finally, we did also some interviews with the participants of these workshops in order to get their insights as well. So as I mentioned, the first activity was to create and build the local ecosystem. So what we did, and if you want, you have also here the QR code. So we create the local accelerator hubs with the idea to have also not only, let's say, a physical space, but also to have a digital space where local businesses can find good practices. They can also interact among each other. So, for example, we have the one in France, the one in Cyprus, and in Slovenia as well, and in Portugal. So the idea also was, to create these accelerator hubs in the local language. So if you go through the QR codes, you will notice that they are in local languages. So then, why we use design thinking for circular economy? So the idea it was first to equip change makers to empathize, co-create, and test the regenerative solutions. Also to help them co-create circular businesses models tailored to regional contexts. Also, as if you know, design thinking, the idea is also to enable rapid validation of the solution that has been proposed. Also, circular economy can help to create a system level innovation and encourages rethinking systems. So this is the idea, to go from the typical linear economy to the circular economy and apply business models in this case. Also, we can see that we can facilitate stakeholder collaboration because the local sector hubs were composed by public, private, and civil sectors, as well as academics. And finally, the idea is also to empower communities to own and scale sustainable transformation, because the idea is also, to replicate the solutions in different businesses. So if we go more in detail about the experiment, so we did a cycle of 3 workshops. So the first workshop was with the objective of create what we call the circular local challenges. In the second, so in this case, we collected more than 20 local challenges that were identified by the different local accelerator hubs. In the second workshop, once we have the local challenge, so then they propose circular solutions that address these challenges. So using the design thinking methodology, and finally, and so in this case, we were able to identify more than 10 circular solutions. And finally, we went to the phase of feedback and iteration. And at the end, we were able, to see that actually they were able to validate more than 2 pilot solutions. So if I go a bit on detail on the different activities, but regarding, because of the time, I will just go quickly through them. So, for example, in the circular challenges in Cyprus, they were focusing more on the construction sector, so lack of market surveillance and effective implementation of legislation were one of the challenges. In France, they repair garments as well. So in Portugal, how to reduce the use of raw materials and how to take advantage of ecosystems. While in Slovenia, they were focusing more, as I mentioned, in textile and how they can yes, also, repair and use less of material, and also, reutilize or reuse the textiles that are already in the value chains, right? So here you will see the different circular solutions, as I was mentioning as well. This is part of the activities, and I would like maybe to go in 2 examples, one from Portugal and one from France, just to give you an overview of what are the main results that we got from the workshops. So if we go in the case of Portugal, so here they were 4 businesses that were working together. So Baker and Baker, Quinta Gomarais, which was a winery. Then we have the Escola Profesional Agrícola, so that it's let's say, it was helping them in make the testing of the sludge that they were collecting from the bakery. So the idea here, it was to collect the sludge from the bakery and use them as a compost for the production of wine, so for the Quinta de Gomarais. So then they use also the academic partner because they were doing, let's say, the testing and also seeing if the sludge was according to the norms in order to be utilized as a compost. Okay, so this is the first, let's say, a solution that I wanted to mention. And also here it's the second one, which is also this one is related to the textile sector. So the name is Retoucherie Eco Fashion 94. So 94, it's because it's in the department 94 in France. And so in this case, they created a local collection and repair of clothes. So I think this is also very similar and what or pertinent at the presentation before. So here the idea, and if you can also go to the QR code, you will see that this is a pilot that is actually running. So the idea here is that you can view the rates, you can request for an estimation of the repair of the clothes. Then, as I mentioned, there is a local collection system. So the neighbors of the department are the ones that do the collection of the clothes. Then you receive your quote. If you are okay, you pay, and then you get back your garment repair. What is also interesting in this pilot is that they were also using the incentive, which is called the bonus réparation, that is in France, that supports also the reparation of clothes. So part of the repair, it's taken by the government, and also you need to pay the difference, let's say, on the repair of the clothes. So finally, as I mentioned, we did the feedback and iteration because we also wanted, to collect the point of view of the general public. So here are the different activities that has been performed in this sense. So finally, the learning points. So I think I will go fast in here. So we have 4 main learning points and recommendations. So the first one is that local accelerator hubs, creator accelerator hubs can strengthen collaboration and innovation. Also invest in skills, because this is one of the main also findings that we had, is that business needed to have skills. So maybe they are not aware of how circular economy works actually. So this is another of the main findings that we have. Also, they need regulatory and financial support, right? So this is also the third finding. And finally, it's that a local accelerator hubs can facilitate this multi-stakeholder engagement and cross-sectoral collaboration. Okay, as I mentioned, we did interviews as well. So here you will see some quotes that we have from the interview process. In the different, as I mentioned, in the different lessons and recommendations that I showed in the previous slide. And finally, here are 2 main, let's say, reports that we produce as part of the experiment. So the first one is the Sharing Deal case study, which is a guide on how we implement the circular economy experiment. So it will be easy for replication. So you can go to the QR code here and you can find also this resource available. And also we have our final report in implementing local accelerator hubs to foster business innovation in the circular economy that will be published in early July. So with this, I would like to finalize my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, so please put them in the chat and we will be happy to reply to them. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Hernan. It's indeed, especially the Shared Green Deal project, it's such a huge project that so much more could be said about it. And so, of course, if there are any questions, we can address them later. I think it's really interesting also how both of you kind of mentioned how the start of all this behavior change needs to be actually the listening, the defining what actually is the specific behavior that needs to change, and also adapting it to the local context, which is also quite important. And so now we move to the specific cases from the Euromed area. As I mentioned, we will have the 3 case studies from 3 different projects, and we'll start with Reper, which is a project that's focused on creating a new repair culture. And I will give the floor to Giulia directly.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Susanna. Hello, everyone. I'm Giulia Maselli from Metropolitan City of Bologna. And I want to present you our project, a Reper project, that's Repair Perspective. So we can go ahead. The next slide. I don't know if we don't have slide here.
You don't see the slides?
I can see the slide, but just the intro slide. Not if it has moved, then I don't see the next one.
Yeah,
I see the slide 63.
It has moved.
Okay, no problem. I want to present the project. Yes, of course.
Oh, now it's, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, we talk about repair behavior and culture. So repair born of this from this idea. So we discovered that we know that a lot of people want to repair than buy new stuffs. But so our projects talk about the behavior culture. So it's not easy to change the culture, but we want to implement some stuff to try. So you can go ahead.
I will start again. It seems a little bit slow.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, it's also tired after lunch, the PowerPoint, so it's a bit slower today. But I can also try to share it if that helps.
No problem. I can talk about the project and our results. So we define some challenges at the beginning of the project, and we wanted to study how we can change the culture and change the approach to repair perspective. So we know that it's not easy to change something alone. So the perspective and practices are over the Europe. So it's easier to maximize the impact together. And in this section, in this view, we define three parts in the project. And now we are in the phase that we have the Repair hubs, Repair training, and also the nudges. For the first one, the Repair hub, all the partners, we are 10 partners and 8 countries. We develop 8 hubs, online and physical hubs. And there are places that you can find, you can change, you can find, yes, something to inspire you to repair and not to buy something. And each hub define a type of object. For example, in Italy, thank you. For example, in Italy, we define our hub and we choose the small electronic devices because we work with the local realities. And in Bologna, there is a reality that organize repair cafes.
I'm sorry about the technical part.
It's not important, Susanna. Don't worry. It's easier. So the 3 actions are parallel. So we have the hubs and also the training. In September, we will start the training, and the training is to the trainers to implement our vision and aim to people that one became repairing. So, and the last one is not the last one because it's simultaneous, is the nudges. The nudges are the gentle pushes, yes, that we talk about it in Sarajevo. And the last month we defined how the nudge can imagine, and each partners choose once, but it's not easy to define a nudge for each country, but it was even more difficult to understand how to monitor it over the time. And I don't know if I don't, okay. No, sorry. Okay. So the three phases are simultaneous, and in our vision, at we are in the middle of the project, and it's not too easy to speak with the people and also to different targets, because it's not we can't change something only to speak with a type of target. For example, only consumers or only SMEs. So we have to try to define a language that we can use in different way and in different targets groups. So this is, I don't know if the last slide, but it's not easy. It's yes.
I think now it works. So let me,
yes, because in our vision we want to change the society approach and the repair culture, and so the vision, and so we want to take an opportunity to repair to the people. So we want to work with the right to repair, and this must our priority. So in this way, this is the project and our results in this period. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julia, and sorry for all the technological challenges. But yeah, great, thank you. I hope I will be able to move to the next slide. So yes, so that was Repere, and I will just go directly to the next presentation, and then we will just do a wrap up after all of them. Hopefully now all the sharing and slides will work. So now we would like to give the word to Krisa Valentis from Verde in Math project, another project from the ISE mission that is this time focused on transforming textile consumption behaviors. So we can see that the topic of textile keeps coming up in this context. So the floor is yours.
Yes, exactly, Susanna. Thank you very much for this introduction. My name is Valentis Kitikidis. I'm a senior researcher at CERT, the Center for Research and Technology in Greece. So if you want to move a little bit, the next slide, please. Okay, Verde in Math, in principle, yes, we are talking about transforming textile consumption behaviors in the math. Next slide, please. Okay, now some data. Luckily, we had two projects so far. It was the CARE, and it was also the Shared Green Deal, which are dealing with textile waste. So far, it's like 12 kilos of textile waste produced annually. Of course, the number has been changed. It depends on the context, it depends on the region, it depends on the year of consumption and on the typology. Here we are not talking about footwear, we are talking about textile and clothing. And what is common in these three projects here mentioned today? Well, it's a huge environmental footprint that the textile industry is producing, is leaving. So the resource consumption in the textile and clothing industry has a significant environmental concern, impacting water, land, energy, and raw materials. So it's the third highest source of pressure on water and land use in EU. It's the fifth highest user of raw materials and greenhouse gas emissions. And it is the third largest employer worldwide after food and housing. So it's a huge dimension of this industry and a huge carbon footprint. footprint, not carbon footprint, environmental footprint in general. So if you can move to the next slide, please. Yep. So the title of the project is Preventing and Reducing the Textiles Waste Mountain in the Med area. So far we had the insights and reflections from the Nordic countries. Now we're talking about the Med. And based on the EU priorities like the Green Deal mentioned so far, or the Clean Industrial Deal, where we talk about competitiveness and decarbonization of the industry, the textiles strategy, of course. Based upon these EU priorities, Med will consider opportunities and challenges of taking a user-centered approach in innovation and sustainability in the textile and clothing industry. So the user, the consumer, the resident is the key here in this project. Consumer because he's consuming clothes, and resident because he's disposing of clothes after their end of life. So if you want to move a little bit. Thanks. So we have a multi-level behavioral challenges. So we are engaging policymakers, industry, and consumers actively in support services. So these three main target groups, we aim to achieve the efficient use of raw materials, the reduction of waste production, and the management of end-of-life textile and clothing products by engaging a support service addressed to these three target groups, as said. Next slide, please. So first of all, what are our tools in order to achieve this? So we are talking about a knowledge platform in this sense. So it's an online tool, it's an online platform with a consortium level section and national sections. Each hub which is created within this project has its own mini website, and it is feeding with content which is addressing to quadruple helix actors. So what is hotspots or barriers or topics of concern in each country will be reflected in a user-centered approach, meaning we will have storytelling, best practices, reflections, insights, everything custom-made to each need and dynamic in a regional context. So we are talking here about a conceptual framework for information sharing through the development of this knowledge platform. It will be online, integrated into the website with fora, various tools, and the virtual presence of our hubs, the national Verdin Med hubs. If you want to go further, then I make the connection to this Verde hubs. Okay, Verdin Med hubs. So this is our own community of practice in principle. Each country, each project partner has its own community of practice, and it is a network of regional facilitators and local actors. So we exchange and dialogue about hot topics, as said, EPR, mandatory separate collection of waste introduced in 2025. These are, for example, hot topics like the manufacturing, depending on the ecosystem. So we have Spain or Portugal and Italy, which have a big manufacturing potential. Other countries are smaller, have less manufacturing, but they focus more on the textile waste management. So in principle, these are virtual hubs, and all quadruple helix actors are participating, and the results and the reflections and insights are reflected in this knowledge platform. If you want to go further, we have then our own academy, the Verde Academy. It's like the Euromed Academy, which has a policy orientation. So we meet every now and then on a consortium level and exchange with policymakers. So the target group in this sense is public, private, and social economy involved in the collection and sorting, because these are the main actors, and those have to exchange with us. Waste management companies. Now I lose the presentation, but it's now here again. Thank you. Policymakers on a regional and national level, responsible bodies for the collection of waste. It can be a municipal reuse center, or it can be a regional waste management company which is operating reuse centers, for example, and of course licensing bodies, because as said, extended producer responsibility is a very hot topic, because municipalities, they are lacking expertise, they are lacking infrastructure, and they have a lot of questions to ask. So licensing bodies like EPR, for EPR compliance and waste carriers, these are involved in a dialogue to collaboratively discuss and develop policies aimed at reducing textile waste, mainly on a local or regional level. So the first meeting was in Malaga, in Spain, this year. The next slide, please. So behavioral change in consumers, or for consumers. So we have also our own living labs. Perhaps there's some kind of overlapping with a care project. So these living labs, they rely on real-world data and iterative testing to integrate the R strategies into the consumer's life. What kind of R strategies? It's repair, it's reuse, and it is rethinking. So we start with a service. We inquire information from the consumers on their consumption habits. What do they know about the origin, for example, of their clothes? What kind of clothes they prefer? Monomaterial, blended material? Do they know that dark colors, for example, have a bigger footprint than light colors? How often they wash, for example? These surveys will feed into a living lab, and then we will conclude with another post-survey about how they dispose their clothes after their end of the life. If they know the destiny, the destination of their clothes, if they have an overview of how many collection points their municipality has, if this is sufficient, and of course, other kind of consumer behavior models like shopping through platforms, and if they know that this has a bigger footprint because it's easier to buy something, but it's also easier to return things because they are not fitting, everything is virtual and not physical. Just an example. So if you want, and then we conclude with the study visits to companies, to factories, which are involved in this ecosystem and the circular and sustainable ecosystem. In this case, you see here, it's a factory which is producing non-wovens. It's in principle recycling or downcycling textile waste into non-wovens for the automotive industry or for the mattress industry. We can move a little bit further. This is another tool in order to approach consumers, the communication campaign, also partially based on the surveys we have just mentioned. So in 7 countries within 18 months, we produced 21 videos, 3 videos per partner, and then we have them uploaded in 5 social channels. So these videos are, as said, about consumption habits of consumers, but also about their waste disposal or waste management habits after the end of life of their textiles and clothing. So we produce these videos, for example, in big brand shops, outside of them, fast fashion shops, for example, second-hand shops, and we involve various target audiences like young people, adults, and families in order to have a kind of diversification of our statistical sample here. If you want to go further, how we maximize the impact of this project? Well, we are part of the Ecosystix community, and not only. So this is a community of practice where over 50 projects, like-minded or sister projects, are participating. And through this community, we are maximizing the impact, and we are visualizing our key deliverables and outputs and results of this project to the wider community. And I think this concludes the presentation. Yep. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Definitely a lot of common points with everything that's already been mentioned. we see that there are some similar challenges and, of course, similar value chains that are being addressed by different projects. But I would now move to the very last, not the least, but the last project for today, which is focusing on a bit latter level. It's focused on the public procurement. So procurement project is dealing with, if we can maybe move the slides, is dealing with the public administration side of the circular economy, and something also very important in this transition, and that could make a big difference, but that's quite challenging at the moment. So I would give you the floor to present us the main
Okay, thank
behavioral
you so much,
changes.
Susanna. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sofia Martins. I'm from Behavioural, and we are one of the partners of procurement project. As Susanna said, it's a little bit different point because it's based on the public procurement. So I'm trying to be fast. Sorry, since I know I don't have a lot of time. Just give me 1 second to change slides. This is the first one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about behavioral change in public procurement. And I start with these two figures that public procurement represents 40% of the EU GDP, around 2 trillion annually. The major sectors are energy, transport, waste, and social protection is the most important buyers. And another figure that is a significant portion of public procurement procedure, around 55%, rely only on the lowest price criteria. So we want to contribute to fight these issues. Too fast, sorry. Let me that. No, this is hard.
We're going to make it through the last few slides.
Yeah, I try to go back and I go forward. This is not doing well. Sorry. Back
to keep us on our toes too.
I don't know what happened. This is hard. Yeah. Let me just try. I think I got it. Okay. So again, sorry, procurement supports the transition towards a competitive, innovative, sustainable, and resilient ecosystem in the Mediterranean. So we address the underutilization of strategic procurement methods, and specifically the green public procurement and the public procurement for innovation. Let's see it now. I'm going to pass the video because I think the presentation is going to be shared. So in order, then you can all see. So not to take a lot of time, since we are in the deadline of our time for this event. So I'm going to pass the video, and all can see. The video is just a resume of the project, and also just to say that we are 9 partners from 8 regions that came from Italy, Spain, Portugal, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Greece, Cyprus, and Croatia. So we are these partners that are working in this project. And we intend to upscale and transfer tools, strategy, and networks developed by 2 previous projects from Interreg Med program that was called Prominent Med, that was focused on PPI, and the project Graspino that was focused on green public procurement. So these 2 projects get together and created the ProcureMed in order to have a step forward in these issues. So through the ProcureMed and through the things that we learn in Prominent Med and in Graspino, we want to support public and private stakeholders in innovation procurement in line with the EU strategy, and also create the Euro-Mediterranean coalition to enhance a knowledge transfer, exchange of good practice, and promote green public procurement and PPI procedures. So in terms of impact, we want to have some impact in terms of economical impact in order to have some capacity building to enterprise and public authorities. Also, in terms of social impact, we want to promote the transnational cooperation knowledge sharing through the establishment of a coalition, and also, and last but not least, and a very important impact, that is the promotion of green technology by encouraging the adaptation of these types of procurements. So in terms of target behavior, we know that public authorities often prioritize costs over sustainability and innovation when they are making some decisions in terms of procurement. So they use the criteria of the lowest price and limit the adoption of green and innovation solutions due to that. So what kind of specific behavior do we want to promote? The change is that public procurements integrate green public procurements and public procurement for innovation into their own strategies. I can say that some of the countries already are working on it. For instance, in Portugal, we have a strategy, national strategy, that is already defining specific criteria, green criteria, to be integrated in public procurement. So some countries are working already. This is one example, but we now see steps for this change happening. We know that sometimes, and it's something that we discussed in the project, sometimes it needs to be an obligation to have a behavioral change. So when it comes to obligation and emergency, the behavioral change. So we want also to fight that, and to before we have this obligation, and before is a matter of emergency to change, that public authorities already have this in their mind, so they can start changing. So in terms of what we want to achieve in terms of fight some barriers, we identify some barriers. So the limited knowledge and expertise in green public procurement and public procurement for innovation among the procurement technicians of the authorities. For them, it's very difficult to integrate. They have, some of the public authorities have local public procurement specifically have limited staff, so they need the help of other departments, and the fact that they have some limited staff working, they don't have time to learn about green public procurement and public procurement for innovation, so that is one of the major barriers. So also the lack of access to reliable tools and methodology to implement sustainable procurement, and limited technical skills to evaluate innovative solutions beyond cost consideration, and then to follow all the work and to monitor the work that is going to be contracted. So this is the main barriers that we identify. From the other hand, we have some enablers that we identify, such as the existence now of legal frameworks and policies supporting strategic procurement. Also, the results of previous projects that we can use and promote, and also the support to public and private stakeholders in innovation procurement through specific capacitation actions and training actions that we are performing. In terms of opportunities, and taking into consideration the physical and social factors that prevent the change of the behavior, we identify the bureaucratic complexity and rigid procurement regulations. Sometimes, even when entities want to make some change and to integrate green public procurement and the innovation criteria and the procurements, they sometimes have some specific national rules, and they are not allowed to make it that easier. So this is a complex thing. Also, the limit collaboration between public procurements and private enterprises. They need to articulate this together, and sometimes they don't. And also the resistance to change among procurement departments due to the perceived risks in adopting innovation solution. This is something that really exists, afraid that is so innovative that is going to have some problems in the future. So this is something that we also need to change. So what environmental social factors support this behavior and the change in the behavior? We identify as the opportunities to creation of the strategic procurement unified platform, also the establishment of the Euro-Mediterranean Coalition and the awareness raising initiatives and knowledge sharing workshops that we are performing. We are performing training sessions and the capacity building sessions. So it's a work that we are trying to overcome. And as a motivation, we identify the recognition and incentives for public authorities implementing green and innovative procurement. Also, a clear demonstration of long-term cost savings and environmental benefits, and increase the visibility of successful case studies within the Euromed area that we also always says that we want also to promote the good practice and the good examples between our networks. So this is it. This is our contact. So follow us also. And if you have some questions, I'm available. Thank you so much. And I'm going to stop the control. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sophia. So despite all the technical issues that apologies for that, we managed
this of take control is difficult.
Yeah, it's not as easy as we thought, but we managed.
Yeah, exactly. We managed.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, everybody, for all the interesting case studies. So we've learned a bit more in detail of what all of these projects are facing and how they're dealing with the challenges. But as already said at the beginning, we really saw similar stories, similar approaches, the importance of knowledge sharing, awareness raising, which is also what we're trying to do with the webinar we've organized today. Still, there's some space to ask questions if you want to, especially in the chat. I've seen there's just one more of a statement than a question, and also it's in French, and I'm not sure everybody here is a French speaker. But briefly, it talks about how the manufacturers are the ones who should also contribute with the choice of raw materials for their products to make them durable, repairable, and limit mass production even with the higher price. So, of course, it's a very pertinent topic, also discussed at the EU level now, how to approach this. I think that what we learned, there was a lot of overlaps. Maybe one question from my side, anybody can take it up, but maybe it's mainly for Rosa and Hernan, because you mentioned it, the adoption of the strategies, of the behavioral change strategies to the local context. Like, could you maybe elaborate on it, on how do you do that? Because it's we have all these approaches. It's good to share and exchange knowledge, but it's true that at the end you have specific contexts, specific local communities, languages. So maybe how to make sure that the strategy is well adapted to the context that you're dealing with.
I could give it a quick go. Yeah, thanks a lot. I do think that's a very relevant part to consider when it is about behavior change. And I think depending on the topic we look at, the local circumstances are just quite different. If we, for example, look at food, which, as I showed, is the second topic of our project, then of course, depending on the country, the food behaviors and common things are very different depending on the region and country. So I think, as we have also described in the project, the best approach here is to have some common starting points, some generic EU-wide numbers or so on, that we can use to generate some potential interventions or services or advice or whatever we want to do in the project. But then, as we have also seen now throughout the different projects, to engage the local stakeholders and citizens in order to shape the activities and make them very locally acceptable and useful. I think this is the way forward, and I think in general this is also what we should be doing. Otherwise, it might just happen that we sit there on our desks and develop stuff that is not actually suitable for the target groups.
Yes, indeed. Thanks a lot. I think that's also what we at ACR Plus try to advocate for, that the regional perspective and the local perspective is very important and needs to be taken into account. So maybe just at the last couple of slides, you have some last contact information. If you want to connect with us, if you want to follow up, first thing, as Maria already mentioned at the beginning, and you can also find it in the chat, there's the ISEC Hub that you can join and interact there. Then another thing we will do within the ISE mission community, we will do another training open to the wide public in autumn, probably November 2025. So it's kind of far yet, but the time flies very fast. So that will move a bit from the behavioral change to different topics. But we can definitely keep you updated about this. And as I also mentioned at the beginning, we will have another last webinar in this circular lifestyle series that will take place on Monday. So if you're interested in that, definitely join. And unless there's any questions, which I don't think I saw any, I will just thank all of our amazing experts and presenters for their interesting presentations. As I said, the presentation will be shared as well as the recording, so you will be able to access it after the webinar. And since we ran out of time, I think I'll just wish you a nice afternoon. No more technological mishaps, and thanks a lot for listening to us today.